Happy.
Hello.
Mohlala Boshomane.
Yes.
You're known as Sadi. I thought it was Sadi. And you explained that it's from Musadi,
Yes.
which is a woman.
Uh-huh.
It's nice to officially have you on my platform, and I'm honored that you're here, and I hope you're not too nervous.
Everything.
Everything. We must please try and keep it calm. This is a safe space, and I think more than anything, I'm not religious at all. But what I've found with a lot of religious people, especially Christians, is whenever they are nervous, they remember that they are doing God's work. And that gives them the strength to power through. And I think for our episode today, you came to do God's work. So I think your nerves are not that important. However you feel is not important. What's more important is that you're here to change lives.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you can just give a brief introduction of who you are, where you're from, any education background you'd like to share with us.
My name is Happy.
Hey, happy days.
I'm known by the name Happy, and Sadi is the name of my company.
Okay.
Yes. I was born in Limpopo, the Sekhukhune area. I'm the rural girl. Grew up in the villages, played around in the rivers and with mud. And then later on, joined my parents in Joburg when I was doing grade 7 or grade 6. Yeah,
Somewhere there.
somewhere there.
Yeah.
Then I did my high school learning in Joburg, which was in Tembisa. From there, after matric, I went studied in TUT. I did accounting. And later on, I did cost and management accounting. And later on, I did my postgraduate in business administration.
Okay.
Yeah.
You still want an MBA?
I still want an MBA.
Because most people don't know, MBA stands for Masters of Business Administration. But you need to start with the business administration bit.
Yeah, the postgrad in business administration.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank you for sponsoring today's episode, by the way. And in saying that, if you could please maybe just tell us about your business. What business is it? What do you do? What services do you offer?
Oh, we have been in business for the past decade.
Decade?
A decade, yes.
You look 22.
I'm very young
You're
and
not
old.
22. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've been in business for a decade doing accounting, tax, and business advisory. So in a nutshell, we are an accounting firm. But we have passion project as well on the side where we teach and develop kids and teen entrepreneurs.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to go into this business? Is it just what you studied? Did you see a need in the market, etc.?
Accounting.
Yeah. And specifically the business that you have, the advisory, all of the aspects of the accounting work.
Okay. When I was in university, I loved accounting so much. And in the accounting books, there was a whole lot of stories about entrepreneurs, how they started, where they are. And those stories always interested me.
Yeah.
And whenever I drove around Joburg with tall buildings, I thought, one day,
This is going to be me.
it's going to be my office, right?
Yeah.
Then when people were applying for internships, I thought, no, I'm going to go into business. I don't need internship.
Hectic.
Right? But when I come back from university, they go like, there's no way you can start a business without an experience.
Yeah.
Therefore, you need to go back and work first, then after you can look into it. But at that time, I didn't as yet tell people that I wanna own an accounting firm. I didn't have the words for it, or I didn't say it out loud. It was in my head.
Okay.
And because I was in modeling, so some other time, some gentleman who is a journalist asked me, what is it that you want to do when you grow up? I was like, I want to own an accounting firm. And that was the first time that I said it out loud, and it was written on a newspaper. And that newspaper became like my vision board.
Yeah.
To say, this is what I want to do. Fast forward to that, I then got a job, worked, it was beautiful. I gained knowledge on forensic audit, project management, and a little bit of financial management. And I got introduced to tender business as well.
Okay.
And in doing business development for that particular company that I was working for, I then gained my momentum to say, actually, I can start my my business right now, because as you walk into these offices, walk into these boardrooms, you realize people are actually taking you serious as you're speaking. And you're winning tenders as well without even assistance from other people. Therefore, you have the capacity to be able to do it alone. And one day I jumped ship and I started my business. But within the same organization that I was working for, I registered the company while I was still there. I got few clients while I was still working as well. So by the time I left the job, I already had a little bit of clientele. And that was even before I qualified as an accountant, because when I was working, I was a forensic auditor, which means I have to be a membership of certain body which was related to forensic auditors, right?
Yeah.
So now that I want to venture into accounting, it means I must be in another membership body that is related to accounting. So I had to switch from forensic to accounting. And during that process, my company was still running. And shout out to all my partners and collaborators in the street there, because without them, I would not have managed to be where I'm at, because I could not sign off anything at the time because I was not a professional as yet. I would get client, they'll sign off and do certain things that I could not do at the time. And I learned a lot from them too.
I just want to say, from everything you've said so far, the inspiration of, number one, a black African female, young, coming from rural South Africa, Skokune, coming to the city, living and studying in the township, and having these big dreams. Many people would probably see you and think you're just a beauty with no brains. And at least you did use that because you were modeling, but you wanted something more. And I appreciate that. And I think that's quite inspiring. I also just want to highlight the importance for many people that may not know of why, especially in professional services, it's advised that you go work. Number one, go figure out how these things operate, get paid while you're learning almost for free, versus starting a business from scratch and burning, because that normally happens. Number two, the idea that because of your skill set and your work, you are already sourcing clients while you're working somewhere. Because a lot of clients, for understandable reasons, don't respect Gmail addresses or Yahoo addresses. And even when you're building your business, if they're getting an email from a legitimate big company, there's that credibility that you build up.
Yeah.
So that by the time you break away, they already know you. Yeah. Again, you're not just a young girl saying, hey, I've got an accounting firm, please come work with me. And they're like, we actually don't know who you are and what you've done. And also the partnership is huge. Registered accountants, and in particular chartered accountants, have got certain powers that people don't know, signing off on certain financial statements. Yeah. This doesn't mean you can't start a business. It just means you partner with the people with the accreditation, and then later on you can then do your thing. Because our biggest private hospital company in the country is Mediclinic. And one of the people that owns it dropped out of university, which is Johan Rupert. Mm-hmm. But he would have one of his father's business partners, the son, being a medical doctor. And through that, you've got a varsity dropout, never studied medicine, owning hospitals.
Yes.
So it's possible to get into businesses even if you're not registered, if you have the right partners and the right collaborators. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Why did you, not necessarily why did you go into that business? What does your business do for, if you were to explain it to like people that don't know? Accounting, suit, buildings, but what do you actually do?
Okay, what we do is we work with SMEs.
Small and medium enterprises.
Yes.
Okay.
And the reason being I chose that particular market is because they're struggling a lot. Mm-hmm. And I've noticed that there's no sustainability in the businesses that our youth are studying in South Africa. And mainly the lack of sustainability is the fact of people start businesses, they don't have financial management skills. They're lacking many other soft skills. Could be an engineer, you're a great engineer, but in entrepreneurship, you need to have financial management skills, you need to have people skills, communication skills. The list goes on and on. Yes. And therefore, I wanted to be a support to them, right? And accounting was one of them, right? So when I started in business, tax was not the conversation we were having on a table.
Yeah.
Simply because SARS didn't have capacity as well to facilitate a whole lot of laws and principles that they would have loved to at the time. And because entrepreneurship was still new, they still wanted to be soft on entrepreneurs in the market at the time.
Sure.
So at that time, tax was the secondary to every entrepreneur because all they wanted is tax clearance. That was it.
Yeah.
And if you tell them you owe VAT, you owe PSN, they would not want to listen to you.
Of course.
And therefore, you will be regarded as one person who does not know what to do. They don't know their job because how can they owe SARS when they have an accountant?
Yeah.
Because
you must make everything disappear and sort everything out.
yes, because according to them, if you understand tax, therefore it means they are not supposed to owe tax.
Hectic.
All right. So the conversation was very difficult to have with any entrepreneur at the time.
Yeah.
Therefore, accounting was the forefront, which was financial statements, because when they do tenders, of course, financial statements will be needed, right? Then fast forward to now, because of AI, and thank God to COVID. Then AI came into place. Now SARS have the capacity to be able to cater to everybody and to be able to be on the lookout. And the AI becomes the eyes of SARS. All right? So the AI can be able to check on the discrepancies and do auto assessment and make everybody shake because they get all the letters from SARS. And therefore, when now I market myself on social media, when I talk accounting, no one listens.
Yeah.
And when I talk tax, everybody listens because it scares them.
Sure.
So that's where we are at.
That's so interesting. So my understanding is we came here to talk about tax, but I fully appreciate what you're saying because you are an accountant and you're like, I offer accounting services. If I tell you that, that doesn't really get you excited, it's not sexy. But if I say I can help you with your taxes, lower them, get refunds, teach you how to manage these things, by default, I have to work with your accounting to get to the tax part, is basically what you're saying.
Definitely. It's interlinked. It's
Yeah.
a dance between the two. So you cannot do one without the other.
Sure.
And, accounting starts from record keeping. And tax, the same thing. You have to record whatever that you'll be declaring.
Sure.
Therefore, everything starts from accounting element, then
Yeah.
it goes over to tax.
You're saying thank you to COVID. Is
Yeah.
it because SARS was forced to go tech?
Yeah, SARS was forced to go tech.
Yeah.
And because of tech, it makes SARS to be efficient.
Yeah.
And because SARS can only do so much, and they used to appoint audit firms to come through and do some audit, right? But now with tech, they can facilitate a whole lot of things without a human being present.
Okay.
Because AI can take care of all of those things.
Do you think SARS is efficient? And when you answer that, is it efficient for people like yourself? And do you think it's efficient for the ordinary citizen that pays tax?
Do I think SARS is efficient? Yeah, I think they are.
And understandable?
They try to communicate as much as they can.
Yeah.
They have newsletters coming out every now and then. They communicate, right? But because of a lack of interest or maybe lack of knowledge from our people,
Yeah.
the information does not get to them.
Okay.
It's like, what do they call it? Like when you go on your TikTok, you can only see the things that you have interest in.
That is true.
Therefore, if you don't have interest in text, there's no way.
There are no text videos that I can jump out.
There's no way SARS will pop up on your TikTok thing, right?
Yeah.
So, and because a whole lot of people are paying a lot of money over to SARS on a monthly basis, it's very important that each and everyone understand.
Yeah.
Why is it that they have to pay all these taxes?
In your understanding, why do we pay tax? How about Elon Musk, myself, and many others hate the idea of paying taxes? We feel like, number one, obviously our government misuses tax money. But from your understanding, why is it important to pay tax? And what does tax money do for the ordinary person?
As you said, tax is God.
Oh,
Tax is a spiritual work as well.
okay.
Because by you paying tax, it means that you have the capacity to be able to pay tax.
Okay. That's like a blessing.
It's a blessing.
Okay.
That you have the money, and that's why you get to be taxed.
Yeah.
Because if you're unemployed, then there's no tax that you'll be paying.
Sure.
And because you are paying tax, we have police in South Africa, we have free hospitals, we have free clinic, we have free education, we have free many 100 things, right?
Yeah.
And if we're not paying tax, where would be our grandmothers with pension? Where would our nieces be if they will not be getting any SARS? So it's very important that we do pay it, irrespective of the other element of fraud that is taking place that we note. But at the same time, tax is doing great, because without tax, government does not have revenue. And if government does not have revenue, we will not have any social activity taking place in South Africa. Therefore, by you being employed, government is celebrating to say, Happy is getting like 2 million per annum. It means we're going to be sharing 45% of that 2 million.
Yeah.
And if Happy goes into business, like, oh, great, Happy will be pay SAN and VAT and all of those things. Yeah.
Sorry to ask a philosophical question, but do you think ordinary people understand this? Do you think ordinary people see the link on both sides? My tax is the reason my grandmother can get a pension. My tax is the reason my nieces and nephews can go to school for free. Why my aunt can be a nurse, or we can get free healthcare. Do the people on the other side understand that, I need to respect Uhappy, my cousin or my aunt, because she works, and I know because she works, her tax money benefits me as a social grant recipient. Do you think ordinary people actually understand this, or do you think it's some of the work we need to do to actually conscientize people to understand this is the importance of tax, pay it, because it helps your family. And then on the other side, as a recipient of tax, appreciate the people that you know that pay it, because they are contributing to your livelihood.
No, people don't actually understand why is it that they're paying tax. It's just one of those things of tick boxes to say, what can I do? Because even where they're working, for the full-time employed people, is you get a contract already with your salary indicated, and to say, okay, this is your tax money. And no one explains why.
Sure.
Right? So, but it's very important that we educate people why is it that they have to pay tax, because, and maybe the other element is that we are paying for public services. For instance, a person pays medical aid.
Yes.
And they're also paying tax.
It's like a double.
It's double taxing.
Payment. Yeah.
And I always tell people that you are initially double taxing yourself, because you don't understand that that government hospital was meant for you to be able to go there and have help. And simply because we are saying we cannot go to government hospitals because people do this and that and that and that, we go to that last element because it regarded as we are getting treated well. The environment is great. It smells great when you get there. It's like you're in a mall, right? Even if it's a hospital. But at the same time, if we are not involved in the public hospital and we are not using them, it means there's no change that's going to take place. Because the person that is using it does not have the voice.
Jeez.
They don't pay the tax. Therefore, they don't even see the need to complain because they're thinking somebody's doing them a favor. But if we, the people that are paying the tax, are using the services, then we can be able to enforce change because we are the ones who are paying tax.
You believe that the tax-paying middle class should use public goods more so that we can complain?
So that we can complain, so we can bring change.
Oh, that's beautiful. I wanted to say part of the problem, of course, is government, because people feel like we're paying tax to government. They don't feel like we're paying tax for the benefits of the beneficiaries. In the same way the beneficiaries feel like my benefits come from government. They don't think it comes from hardworking tax people. So I think we need to fix that somehow in the messaging.
It's a beautiful cycle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the main types of taxes that we pay for people to know, maybe as an individual, and also because you focus on SMMEs, the taxes that affect them? And if you can maybe explain each one of them briefly.
Okay. As soon as a person registers a company, automatically you're registered for income tax.
Okay.
All right. Income tax you paid on a yearly basis, and there's pay as you earn. And pay as you earn, you only register for it as soon as I have an employee.
Okay.
So say, okay, I have an employee right now. Therefore, I pay them 10,000. A certain element of it is gonna be taxed, and it's a must. It's not negotiable. It's a must that you deduct.
No,
Pay
sorry.
as you earn
Let's stop
from
there.
your
I have a
employee.
company. I register with the CIPC.
Yeah.
As soon as I'm registered, my company is automatically registered for
Right.
income tax.
Yeah.
As soon as I get one employee, does it matter how much I'm paying them? Or as soon as I have an employee that's earning some type of salary, I must go register for pay as you earn for that employee?
Even if they're paying little, as soon, actually, let's say maybe a threshold of above 10,000 or 9,000 there,
Okay.
you must register them for tax.
As long as they have to start paying tax.
Huh?
As long as they have to start paying tax.
Yes, they have to start paying tax.
Okay, if they're not paying tax, you don't. Let's say you're earning 2,000. Because I'm asking this not so much from a company perspective, but more from an ordinary person perspective. I've got a domestic worker. I pay the domestic worker 3,500. So I'm trying to figure out in that instance, do they have a responsibility to help them register for pay as you earn? Or is it only as soon as there's some tax payable? Let's say I have a domestic worker, I'm paying 20,000 to a month. Should I then maybe have that responsibility of saying some tax will be payable here? So let's register this.
I think you must register them for tax.
Okay.
It will be beneficial for them. And the reason being for this is because you also have to pay for UIF for them.
Okay.
Right? And when they're registered for tax, they can be able to leverage on certain things that they can benefit from, like have a tax-free investment account.
Okay.
And they will not be taxed because they're under a certain threshold.
Okay.
But you register them just for the benefit purposes.
Okay. Income tax, pay as you earn. Any other taxes linked to businesses?
And there's VAT. So in VAT, there's voluntary registration. As soon as you feel like you're earning 50,000 plus, then you can volunteer to register for VAT.
Is this per month? Or per annum?
No. Even per annum.
The 50,000.
Yeah, 50,000.
Then you can register voluntarily.
Yes.
Okay.
Then as soon as you hit 1 million per annum in revenue, you must register. It's a must. It's compulsory to register for VAT.
Okay. This is value added tax.
Yeah. And I always tell people that before you register for VAT, especially if you volunteer, make sure that your administration is in order.
Yeah.
Because when you register for VAT, it means you must do VAT reconciliation every month, every 2 months, every 6 months, depending on the cycle that you choose.
What does that mean? It means you have to draft a report every month.
Yeah, you must draft the report to say this where your input and output taxes,
Okay.
and SARS owes you, or now you owe SARS.
This you need to communicate with SARS.
Yes.
So it's
You must do a return the way you do your returns on e-filing.
every month
Every
for
month.
VAT.
Yeah.
Why would someone voluntarily register for VAT? Because it sounds like I have to pay money. Why would I want to do that?
Because people believe there's a perception that when you have VAT, you're a big business.
Okay,
Because remember, compulsory registration is 1 million.
sure.
Therefore, when a person has VAT, assumption is that, oh, this person
Making millions.
is making millions, and that's why people register for VAT. And most of the time is when people go into tendering a certain project will need that VAT because now it's above 1 million.
Okay. You spoke about inputs and outputs around VAT. To an ordinary person, what does that mean?
Output VAT is the VAT that you pay out when you are buying the Coke.
Okay, so when I'm buying goods as a business, I pay output VAT.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. That's input. Sorry. That's input when you
input.
buy.
Okay, if I'm
Then-
buying something from a supplier,
That's-
I pay input VAT.
Yeah.
That's 15%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then when you're making sale, when somebody is buying from you and giving you money, you're paying it. There's output VAT.
Output.
Yeah.
So when you speak about reconciliation, you speak about balancing those things. How much VAT I pay suppliers and how much VAT I charge to my customers.
Yeah.
And then I balance that out.
How much VAT you received
Okay.
and how much VAT you paid out.
Paid.
And if you received more, it means you owe SARS. If you paid it out more, it means SARS owes you. But most of the people regard VAT as revenue. They end up not declaring such and they just declare zeros simply because their accounting does not balance.
Yeah.
You find you owe SARS 1 million and you don't have money to pay salaries. What do you do?
Jeez. I'm trying to figure out with this VAT thing. If I'm not registered voluntarily at 50,000 or mandatory at 1 million, do I still need to do this recon? Do I still need to report to SARS? Or does that only happen? And does it now then open up to, well, I'm not registered, so I don't need to tell anyone how much I paid suppliers and how much I got from customers?
Yeah, if you're not registered, you don't have to register. You don't have to communicate anything VAT related to anyone.
Is that lawful?
Yes.
You're
not registered.
Does it not mess up the accounting is what I'm trying to figure out. I've got a small business. I make 40,000 a year. And somewhere in that, maybe I collected 5,000 Rand in VAT and I paid out 3,000. Do I not need to account for the 2,000 difference to anyone?
Why are you collecting VAT if you're not registered for VAT?
You cannot collect
Yes.
if you're not registered. So I can't sell to customers and add 15% is what you're saying.
Yes.
So that becomes one of the benefits of registration.
That's the benefit of registering for VAT. Or you can be able to add that 15%.
Yes.
But the trick element of it all that people must understand is that you must not just play around with the figures, because most of the time you find people thinking, I priced a lot, let me take it down, because they don't think this VAT amount actually must truly go to SARS. In your head, immediately when you see that VAT is saying 115,000, it's not yours.
Sure.
Right? So because people like playing around with numbers, they end up sabotaging themselves in terms of pricing because they want to compete with the person who is not VAT registered, right? But you as a VAT vendor, you are required to take this money back to SARS. You're collecting the money on behalf of SARS. So you must always consider when you do your pricing that you're doing it correctly.
Let me try and get this right. Sorry to focus on VAT for so long. For anyone who's out there, especially these minis, puzzle shop entrepreneurs, and they're like, no, Baba, 10,000 plus 1.5 for VAT. They're not allowed to charge that unless they are registered and have a VAT number. So anyone who's adding VAT to an invoice or anything, not VAT registered, that's wrong.
It's wrong.
It's arguably illegal.
Yes.
Because chances are they're not taking this money to SARS, they're keeping it for themselves.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two, the reason you register, besides being able to charge VAT, is that this 1,500 you're getting, you can then offset with money you're paying suppliers, that 15%.
Yes.
So that your business will hopefully have more profit. Because if you're not registered, whatever 15% you're paying, you can never claim those back.
You cannot claim back.
But if you are registered, you can then be like, look, SARS, I collected some money on your behalf. I paid some people, so help me out.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why it's very important that your pricing is in order, that you don't find yourself, I always tell people that when you cannot be able to pay VAT, it means there's something wrong you're doing in your business.
Yeah.
It's not a VAT issue.
It's you
Because
that's doing something wrong.
you must be very happy to pay VAT. I mean, you collected it. Why should it be a problem now that you have to pay it?
Especially if your suppliers are cheaper than your customers.
Yes.
You paid less VAT to suppliers because it's cheaper, and you charged more VAT to customers. So how does it happen that something like that?
Yeah. Yes. And it happens like that because people, like I say, they play around with their numbers when they do their pricing. So they don't do their break-evening. When do I break even in my business? When do I make profit? When am I making a loss? They're just dancing through this entrepreneurship, not aware about the record keeping, what's truly happening. They just going on with it. And by the time they have to do the compliance element of it, they get shocked and they hit SARS. And SARS is not an issue. The issue is your numbers. Let's go back to your business and check what are you really doing wrong so that you can identify it and correct it. Because when you do compliance correctly, it forces you to go back and grow your business in a particular way that will be sustainable.
Do you know Pansula businesses? The the businesses that operate on the fringes of legalities. Do you know them? I'm not going to put you in trouble. I have a question, but I need to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah.
You know Pansula businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain why there are certain business people who say, look, if you pay me cash, we can remove the VAT amount. Whereas if you EFT, if you're swiping, unfortunately, we have to add this 15%. But if you pay me cash now, I can deduct this extra 15%.
Even doctors, they do a lot of that.
You're saying, if you pay me cash, they...
No.
Carry on. Please carry on.
Okay, I've been to one dentist when I was supposed to swipe, and she was like, no, let me take you to the ATM. It's just close by. I was like, what? You want to go with me to the ATM? I was like, yeah. And that is simply because they don't want to pay income tax, they don't want to do VAT, they don't want to do anything compliance related. They want the cash to come in. So majority of companies, they want to receive cash.
Do you think the reason they do it is not so much to dodge VAT, but to dodge income tax?
Everything.
And to make it seem as if they didn't get...
Everything, to dodge everything. Tax related.
I'd like to go back to pay as you earn, sorry. So pay as you earn is the money that, my understanding, employees pay SARS. But you're speaking about it from a business perspective of saying you have a company, you have an employee, you're paying them a certain salary, which is going to attract tax.
Yeah.
So this becomes now your responsibility to be a responsible company. What responsibility do companies have? So you register, I pay you a salary. Do I have a responsibility to make sure your tax is paid? Do I have a responsibility to take the tax amount and send it to SARS? Or can I just be like, you're registered, I've paid you your salary, go sort out with SARS. You've got an income tax number, angene baba.
That will not happen. A person will not volunteer to go and pay tax.
That is true.
It's a must for every business to ensure that they deduct tax from their employees.
They have to.
They have
it's
to.
It's not voluntary.
No, it's not voluntary.
So as an employer, you have to deduct a tax component.
You have to deduct it and pay it over. And if SARS find out that actually you're not deducting any pay at the end from your employees, you're the one who is liable, who will be charged with penalties and fines and.
Yeah.
It will be like you're defrauding the system because you're the one who's supposed to be collecting on behalf of SARS and taking it over to SARS on a monthly basis.
Any other taxes we're missing? Income tax, VAT. You spoke about registering pay as you earn. You touched on UIF, which is not necessarily under tax, but it's compliance.
Yes, compliance.
If you have employees, you must register them for the unemployment insurance fund.
Yeah.
So that you also are responsible to take that money and send it over to the Department of Labor?
Yes.
Okay. Any other taxes under companies you want to raise?
Those are the basics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it get more complicated?
Yeah, it gets more complicated.
For businesses?
Yeah.
Do you deal with personally deal with the complicated matters, or do you mostly focus on these? Because you did say you do mostly SMMEs, and I can imagine that most of the issues are here. But if someone else comes with another company they've got holding companies, conglomerates, they deal with transactions overseas, do you do that type of work?
Yeah.
Or do you send that somewhere else?
We do that type of work. And because I'm not doing it on a regular basis, I've got partners that work with me to be able to engage in that matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. No, thank you. In terms of individuals, are there any other taxes you'd like to raise for the individual? I ask number one in this context. You know, when you tell people not all of us pay tax, they get angry and they say, no, everyone pays VAT. And I'm like, no, not everyone pays VAT. A lot of poor people's spend is on goods that don't have a VAT amount or zero rated, etc. So from an individual perspective, in terms of the work you do, I know you do SMMEs, but are there any taxes now that we're here that you'd be like, look, guys, I also want to raise these taxes. You can come to me or I can refer you, but these are very important.
Taxes.
Yeah.
No, it's not tax per se. Okay. I don't know what to say.
Okay.
But okay. What I wanted to say is that for individuals, there's an element of people who are moving and going and working abroad, right? So there's a tax element there that when you go and work abroad for over a certain days, you must make sure that you notify SARS that I'm not working in South Africa and I'm in a country which is taxing me. Because if you're not communicating that, SARS will expect you to also pay tax in South Africa, whereas you're taxed in another country.
Okay.
So there should be some communication that takes place there so that you get exempted in South Africa.
Okay.
Because
to not pay because you've paid somewhere else.
Because you're paying somewhere else.
Maybe let's carry on with this one. Would you be able to help with work like that personally?
Yes.
Or refer?
We help with work like that.
A lot of people will be like, no, but I don't work overseas. But now we have to start thinking about DJs that have gigs overseas, football players. We have to think of, let's say myself, I go overseas to go speak at an event, and I haven't actually checked if they've texted me there or not. And it comes back this side, and they notify SARS that, but we paid this guy in euros. Now SARS wants to tax me, and I wasn't aware. The other important aspect of that is, has it escaped me? When you're dealing with, this is the other part. When you're dealing with two separate countries, do you get an accountant, tax advisor, or should this work be done by the people you're working with? We're here, we're podcasting. This is going on YouTube. YouTube is under Google. They work with AdSense. They pay us. And many podcasters out there probably don't know this. Do they know if Google and YouTube are paying taxes on the money that podcasters are making? Do they know if SARS is being notified? Because maybe some of us are going to wake up after 5 years to say, you made millions as a podcaster. Yeah, but you owe SARS. And I'm like, I've never worked overseas. It's like, but you were paid by an overseas company. And we don't know if you guys ever sorted out the tax.
Okay. When it comes to the exemption that I'm talking about for working in foreign country, you must be working there over 183 days.
Okay. In a year?
Yeah, to be exempted.
Okay.
Or for you to be taxed in that particular in that particular country. So if you get paid like ad hoc payments, those ones, most of the time they're not taxed, right? Yes. Okay. So it's your responsibility as a receiver or a taxpayer to notify SARS.
To notify who?
SARS. To say, I've got this money that I have
received. I've got no money. They didn't pay me. I've got no money.
And in the olden days, people would get away with this, but not now with AI. Because AI can be able to go and detect all those information that you're trying to hide and bring it to light.
I don't like AI anymore, but thank you for raising it.
So with YouTube, it will be paying you in your bank statement, and SARS have access to that.
Why do they have access to our bank accounts?
Third-party information, what, I don't know.
To chow our money.
Yeah. They're actually trying to integrate the system as much as they can.
Okay.
To make things simpler for them so that we don't get to hide as much as we used to before.
Yeah.
So information is so easy for them to get right now.
Why did you decide to focus on business tax more than personal? Because especially because we're podcasting today, many personal people are going to hit your DMs. That's about a tax issue with Sadi. We're happy. Please help. And you're like, oh, sorry, I do SMMEs. Yeah, but why do you focus more on businesses than personal?
Because I hate to say this, but they gave me a headache last year.
People.
Yeah. Simply because when you're doing their taxes, they expect miracles.
For a refund.
They want refunds, and the workload that they're expecting from me, they cannot be able to pay it.
Yeah.
The time that they're consuming from me, I cannot equate to the invoice that I send them.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you get me.
I understand.
So every day a person will want to talk to you
Sure.
because they're anxious.
Every day, all day.
And you will need to pick up your phone. They have entitlement issues to say, I paid you like 600 or 1,000 rand, therefore I've been calling you. Why is it that you're not picking up? Therefore, I thought, it's not the right market for me.
Do you guys charge like lawyers? Do you charge per hour? Or do you charge per project? Or do you charge in another way?
We charge based on what we deliver.
Okay.
It's not per hour, but the value that we do.
Do you think that should change? I asked this in the context of some tax matters are very complex. And you need to go through a lot of paperwork, bank statements, discussing a lot with the business owner. You guys don't bill for that time. You just say, look, we're going to sort out your taxes. This is your turnover. And then we just hope that it's not as complicated.
No, the complex matters, they're totally different. Is that we charge you an initial fee.
Okay.
To say, okay, with this fee, I'll go through all the information that I need to go through to understand your case or your issue. Therefore, I'll come back and code you accordingly.
So it's like almost like a call-out fee. If you want to sit with me to assess your business, this is how much. Pay me for that.
Yeah.
And then after I've gotten to know you, then I can quote you for the real work you'll need.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you end up underpricing yourself. And in the Bible, they say, if you have underpriced, it does not matter. The work that you have to go through, you still have to deliver.
Jeez.
All right.
In your understanding, what are the benefits of registering a company versus operating on my own? I want to start a business, get stuff from suppliers, sell. Will I be able to register for VAT? You know, what are the benefits of registering a company? Should people be registering companies, or should they maybe only start doing that once they start making a certain amount?
I think people must register companies. And the reason being is because you're creating a track record, an audit trail to indicate that you have been in business for so long, and therefore you can walk into a bank and want a business loan.
Okay.
Or get a grant. All right. But when you operate as an individual, based on the tax rate, from 18% to 45%, the more you earn, the more tax. Yes, is less admin because you don't deal with the company, but you're dealing with yourself. And in a company, if the company might be insolvent, we're not going to attach your personal assets.
Okay.
It's only going to be looking into the company. But when you're working as an individual, everything is you, right? And also, the more you're going to be earning, the more tax you'll be paying. Yeah. And yes, you can register for VAT.
As an individual?
As an individual.
Depending on your income?
Yeah.
Okay. Who is supposed to solve, I'm sorry for asking you this question, who is supposed to solve the issue of people, ordinary personal individuals, and the smallest of businesses? I mean, like spaza shops, street hawkers, because you're very right. It's very admin intensive. It's very frustrating. It's not worth the money. Sometimes they can't even afford to pay you.
Yeah.
But they still feel entitled to your advice and your work. If people like yourself, as well-meaning as you are saying this is too much work and it's not worth it for me, who do you think should be doing that work and who should be paying for those services?
I think the buyer, the customer themselves, they must understand that you cannot just call.
Yeah.
I'm joking. Oh my way, this question. Why are you asking me such questions?
I know it's unfair, but you know, so you're dealing with small and medium enterprises which are registered, who have some type of paperwork and record keeping, so that you can do your job. Mm-hmm. Now you go a step before that and you have like, I don't even know if they still call micro businesses. Very, very small businesses. Umama that's selling a makoda. This guy who maybe wouldn't even be registered but washes taxis. They're not registered as companies. They don't have any compliance. They don't have record keeping. They don't even write on a piece of paper at all. They just calculate in their head to say, yeah, I can do 2,000 today. And at some point, they want to grow. At some point, maybe some of them find out about VAT and they want to be able to claim back VAT. And they meet you and they're like, help me. But they start this journey and they stress you out so much.
No, if a person has an intention to grow, I'm willing to walk the journey with them. The problem is when a person wants to dance in and out with you.
Yeah.
You see that relationship where you're in, tomorrow you're out, you're not sure where
Who's
you're
supposed
at.
to help those people? Because I think most small entrepreneurs operate like that. Because I can tell you, the ordinary person hates compliance. They don't want to deal with paperwork. They don't want to pay tax. They just want to sell their thing, get cash, and move. But you can't scale that, and we can't get them to a level of entrepreneurship that we need for this country, where they're contributing meaningfully in tax, where they're scaling, where they're raising funding, where some of us that have businesses like yours can grow. And you can say, today I am this firm, today I'm as big as that firm, because a lot of these businesses have now come to a level where I can now service them. Who's meant to help those puzzle shop type people?
No, I actually work with them indirectly by offering my entrepreneurship program.
Okay.
To say, okay, in entrepreneurship, we take them through a whole shebang of entrepreneurship.
You charge them for this?
Yes.
How long is it? You don't have to mention the price, but how long is it? Because I know prices change.
It's a month thing.
Okay.
So I see them on a weekly basis, or we talk on a weekly basis to ensure that by the time I engage with you, because we cannot talk finance and tax if things are not in order.
Yeah.
If you're not making money, I cannot talk, you need to pay this much to SARS if there's no money.
Yeah.
So we need to first engage on how can we make money? How can we reach 1 million?
Yeah.
How can we get customers? And after getting the money, then we talk about, okay, let us have capacity, let us employ. Then we can talk tax.
Sure.
Because tax is a high-level conversation. You cannot have it with the person who is unemployed.
Yeah.
And you cannot have it with a business that is not making money. Yes, they need to do their tax returns on a yearly basis and indicate that they're not making money.
Sure.
But at the same time, they must have an intention to say, I want to grow my company, because you cannot pull a person who does not want to grow. That would be frustrating. Therefore, if a person have intention to grow, you see it and you grow with them.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you have some type of incubation program.
Yeah, we can.
I'm asking this
like
on purpose because your DMs again are going to be flooded by people saying, okay, I don't know about this other stuff, but I heard that you can help me get my business ready. And you're willing to do that?
Yes.
For a month?
Yeah. What we do is we take you from coming up with a business idea.
Yeah. Just from an idea phase. Like I have an idea of doing this thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Idea phase. There's a saying, or I had somebody say, not all ideas are worth engaging in. I think it's Tembagwai.
Okay.
Not all ideas are worth taking to the market, because not all business ideas have the capacity to make money.
Okay.
And some ideas are for intellectuals to sit in the boardroom and just have conversations, but not to take it to the market. Therefore, in the idea phase, we determine and we identify the idea that will make business sense, that the market is ready to buy from.
Okay.
Because people have many ideas and great, beautiful ideas, but they're beautiful on paper and business plans, but they might not be feasible.
Would you offer a service like that where you're saying, for a very small amount, I'm not going to teach you and train you for a month. We can have a 1 hour small conversation, sit down. You pay me a small fee. You tell me your idea, and I can tell you after this little sit down or this little consult that, yes, it will work in my opinion, or it won't. Maybe go try something else.
Yes.
Do you offer that, or is it something you do to offer?
I offer that. It's my passion project.
To be like, bring me your ideas and I'll tell you whether they'll work or not.
Yes.
You mentioned teens in entrepreneurship.
Teen entrepreneurs.
These are teenagers.
Yeah.
Please, may you tell me more about that?
The reason being, it's a school, right? I registered an NPO 2019. And the reason for that is because when I started my accounting business, my mom was like, accounting? Why is it that you don't work with kids?
Really?
Yeah. I'm like, kids, what do I do with kids?
Interesting. Your mom wanted you to work with children.
Yeah.
Okay.
And her reason was kids love you. Kids gravitate towards you. And I didn't understand that time until I had my own kids. And I'm the famous mom throughout. Everywhere I go, like, kids are there. Then I understood what my mom was referring to when she says kids love me. Then I had a clash with a friend of mine in 2018, and she was like, yo, every time I call you, give me ideas. I don't want ideas. I just need a friend to listen.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. It's fine. Then I meshed that ideas to, I'm passionate about entrepreneurship, and there's a kids element. Then I measured, I'm like, oh, kids entrepreneurship.
Going back to your mom's call or your mom's vision for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we started the school where we teach kids and teen entrepreneurs. So we develop businesses for kids. And when we started and I'm pitching to people, they go like, I think you need to go and do a degree in teaching. What? No. So that you can be able to engage with a 7-year-old. How do you teach entrepreneurship to a 7-year-old? And I didn't understand because the vision is in my head, right? Then when I started engaging with a 7-year-old, it was like, beautiful.
Yeah.
It's even better than engaging with a 37-year-old.
The 7-year-old listens. The 37-year-old thinks they know everything.
Not even that. A 7-year-old does not judge themselves.
Okay.
He thinks it's the greatest thing in the whole world.
Yeah.
So whatever idea that they come up with, they say it the way it is. And the 7-year-old, when you say come up with an idea, they don't have an idea. And it's not that they don't have it, they're afraid,
They're scared.
they don't believe that this idea is gonna be the thing. So with old people, we have to deal with the fears and the worries, the anxiety first before you can bring forth the idea. Meaning you must deal with the identity issue and mindset shifting before we can talk about entrepreneurship. But with the little ones, you hit on the ground and everything is get born.
Sure.
You say, come up with business name, they come up with 100. With an old person, they're judging themselves over and over and thinking, will happy love this and that and that. So yeah, the conversation is totally different.
The youngest age of kids you're willing to work with, and how can people access this? Because many of us would love for our children to learn entrepreneurship from a young age. What age minimum? Maybe to what age maximum? And how can people access this?
From 10 years old
Jeez.
to 18.
To 18.
Or maybe let's put it 23. Because
Okay.
we also work with the youth, but yeah, from 10 years until...
And they must just visit you on social media, your website.
Yeah, social media, website. Okay. On TikTok, we have a link specifically for the school.
What do you guys do with the kids? Do you meet with them on weekends? Do you chat to them one-on-one, online?
That's one-on-one, online, okay. Where we identify their passion, their interest, their creativity. And this is simply because AI is taking over a lot of jobs, right? Yeah. So the world is requiring us to change how we educate and how we used to do things, because there's no way we can move as if things are normal. True. Because everything is getting interrupted. Therefore, when we engage with kids, we start engaging with them on a level of who are they, what is it that they love, and what is it that they're passionate about. And from that, we depict, okay, this is the idea that you have to work on. And simply the kids are the one actually guiding us to say, this is what I like, therefore this is the kind of business that I want to see myself into. So even if, kids change their mind every now and then. So even if this year they're doing T-shirt, next year they're doing something, is what we want, because that is growth.
Yes.
That is teaching them about who they are, and that is testing ideas over and over again. And by the time they're 18 years, they know exactly what is it that they have to do in the market. Because right now, government says youth go into business. There's high unemployment. Which youth? When did we educate these people to be entrepreneurs? And why would we... they're coming from having an engineering degree, and you're saying to this person, go start a business. Like how? Where? With what? Because already this person is in a state of mind of looking for, they want to drive a car, firstly. They want to put food on the table. And some of them already have kids, and you're telling them to start a business. And I think that's very late to introduce people to entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is a whole journey. It's a lifestyle, and hence we see a whole lot of youth frustrated and doing the business that you're talking about, to say this person is selling sweets and trying this and that. And when this person is 30 years old and trying this and that, and I think that is extremely late. By the time a 30-year-old goes into business, they must know exactly what is it that is working in the market, because they have been testing this thing, and entrepreneurship is part of their DNA. Just like the way we teach our boy child how to kick a ball.
Correct.
Like you were telling your son to say, oh, you were kicking a ball when you're 2 years old.
Yes.
Therefore, entrepreneurship and money conversation must start at that age, to say, you don't pick this 2 cents and put it in your mouth. You put it in here, you know? So you training them that to say, money is not to be picked and be eaten, but it's another habit that we have to build from 2-year-old. And it didn't make sense to me as well when I was talking kids entrepreneurship until my daughter, who was 4 years old, the time I was doing the training, tells me, yo, mommy, when I grow up, I want to open a makeup shop. And I'm going to stand on the door and say, makeup for sale. Like, what? What did you just say, you know? So it's that, initiating this kind of conversation at a very early stage. And we're always talking about building a legacy. And the question is, who are we building the legacy for? Are we engaging with those kids? Are we getting buy-ins from them? Or it's a surprise when a person passed away and they rode on a wheel to say, oh, you got 50% of Sadi Holdings.
Don't know what that is, where it goes. We've got no training.
You have never even been to their boardroom. So why is it that we are not holding hands with our kids and walking into the boardrooms with them and have conversations to say, what do you think about this product? How can we change it? And the kids of today, they've got the greatest ideas.
How would you want us to change the schooling model to incorporate the work that you're doing? Especially if you're saying that kids from the age of 10, I appreciate the fact that you're trying to fill that gap and speaking to kids and grooming them, but I become president in a few years and I want to recruit you into the Department of Basic Education. How would you want it to be integrated with children so that they can learn these things? As you said, like kicking a soccer ball, at least some of the schools have got soccer facilities, but from an entrepreneurship perspective, how do we change that?
Okay, I was thinking it in an extramural activity kind of a thing, to say it should not be a classroom thing.
Okay.
Where we talk what is entrepreneurship, and that's how they're doing it for the grade 7s now, and they have one market day where they sell whatever and they make money and they go splash it. But it should be, and it's done. It should be an extramural activity where kids develop business idea, kids work with other kids to come up together and build up something. And after building something, put money down to say, okay, we want to buy this particular thing or this particular, or we want to go into this kind of invention. What is it that we can do in order for us to get there? And 10 kids combine 1,000 on a monthly basis, buy something and sell it as a group and make money and go back and add on the money that they made, you know, and it becomes a ripple effect of people working together, people collaborating, people partnering. Because entrepreneurship is all about community. And without community, there's no business. Yeah. And I believe if we teach that at a very young age where people of like-minded kids can collaborate and work together, they can achieve great things.
Do you think we should be also enforcing stokvels at school level? Do you think we should be adding things like lessons on tax at school level?
Tax, yeah. I think they must understand why is it that they have to pay tax.
Yeah.
The importance of tax. And money, of course, the conversation should be there. Because right now, it's very sad that our kids are learning on how to buy.
That is correct. We've got a culture of consumption and buying.
They're consuming. We are teaching them as parents. Every day we're going with them to Woolworths to buy something.
Yes.
They're crying for things we buy for them. Every Friday at the schools, they have market days where they come with 5 friends from crash level.
Yes.
They're buying. When they go to school now, they have cards. So you have to inject money in their card, and they can go to the tech shop at school and buy whatever that they want. Already, they are buying. Already, they have a habit of consumption. So it's our responsibility as parents to bridge the gap to say, okay, now that you can buy, let us teach you on how to make this money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got a culture of buying. It's so interesting. We are so comfortable as a nation, schools, to say, give your kids money to buy every day. We don't mind that culture.
Yeah.
But if you were to say to your child, I want to teach you the opposite, the culture of selling, instead of giving you money to go buy the tuck shop, you'll be your own mini tuck shop. You'll sell sweets, biscuits at break. Schools will shut that down and say that's not allowed.
You know,
We don't have that
sad.
culture. It's uncomfortable. We don't want kids on weekends to be selling. We might even call it child labor, but we're fine with kids being given
Money.
mom's cash, mom's card to go buy and swipe. That's okay. Please bring your money on Fridays to come buy, but not please come on Fridays to come sell. And let's create a selling culture.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And selling is the DNA of business. And even entrepreneurs shy away from selling. They see it as a low-level thing.
Correct.
And why I'm saying this is because a person who has a degree, they'll say, there's no way I can sell tomatoes.
It's embarrassing. I'm
There's
ashamed.
no way. With a degree, there's no way I can do this and that kind of a business. Simply because that business is exposing them to selling. And if you cannot sell the tomatoes on the street, unfortunately, there's nothing one can sell.
I literally had a meeting before we sat with a friend of mine, Siyabulela Ncanga. He's a businessman. He's growing a business, mining engineer. He sold peaches when he was in primary school. And then he had payphones, and then he sold Tupperware, and then he started taking photos for people. Today, he's manufacturing toilet paper and the likes. And one of the things we said in the meeting was, if you don't have a culture of selling, because everything is selling, you've got doctors today that are unemployed looking for jobs when they could be selling themselves online for online consultations and the like. Selling is the beginning and the end. And I think I wanted to give a shout out, man. I wrote a note here to DJ Spoo. Throughout his life, even at the height of him dressing in a suit and being clean, he's always been big on never being ashamed to sell more fire in the streets. Recently, he had a challenge where guys were like, well, cut your dreads off if you outsell us. And I've spoken with him on platforms to say, I really wish this thing could catch flame, that other kids see this as cool. If we were to get more celebrities, not showing off what they bought, that culture of buying, but showing off them selling, that it's every month, celebrities, your most favorite, some of the most prestigious, and they go out and they do the embarrassing stuff to be like, guys, we also sell. We need to change this culture because you guys can't be ashamed. If the most beautiful girl, if the hottest guy, if your politician is happy to go out there and sell, then who are you? But we've created this culture and it makes me sad. You said something about students at school saving 1,000 Rand a month as a collective and then buying something together. That's why I thought of that Stockfeld thing, because in these cultures we're creating, kids can come together to play soccer, girls can come together to play netball, girls can come together to do each other's makeup, maybe even do each other's hair. But we don't have a culture of coming together to put money
to
together.
build.
As kids, have maybe a classroom or as an extramural. All of you guys go ask your parents to bring money, not to buy anything. We're teaching you guys to save as a collective, and then you guys are going to discuss the money and where to invest it as a collective,
Yeah.
so you can get used to it.
Yeah.
This project.
And all these kids can take themselves to university or start big businesses because, yeah.
They've gotten used to the culture.
Yeah. And because with 100 Rand, you can do so much with 100 Rand. You can only buy a cold drink. But with 100 Rand by 10 people, you can do something with
You can
it.
buy stock.
Yeah.
You can start a business. You can buy a gazebo and start washing cars with a bucket and dishwashing liquid.
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned tenders. This may not be necessarily what we came to speak about, but your experience in the tender industry, just generally, and then secondly, do you think, would you be willing to help people get into the space?
Okay. Getting people into the space of tendering. Yeah, tendering has, people actually must do tenders. I encourage everyone to play in the space.
Everyone.
Yeah, everyone.
Why everyone?
Because it allows you to have cash flow.
Okay.
Because immediately the Department of you can supply bread, for instance, at the hospitals around Gauteng for 3 years. That's cash flow for 3 years.
Okay.
All right?
Everyone should get into tenders.
Why
just
emphasizing on that?
There's a reason
You're
I'm asking.
interested,
I've got my own answer, but I just wanted to hear yours.
Yes, I think everyone must go into tenders because all the big businesses in South Africa that are doing tenders.
This is a fact.
It's
People
a
don't know
fact.
that.
So-
White-owned businesses.
Yeah, so when you're not doing tenders, you're playing on a small scale.
Okay.
So when you go tendering, now you are playing at the bigger market, in the big ecosystem of entrepreneurship, even if maybe there's a whole negative element of fraud and all of that. But if we go all in, I mean, the fraud element might go down because the reason being there's a fraud because there are few players.
Sure.
But if people are intentional about it and going all in when they say submit for tenders and they get like 200, a flood of tenders, I mean, will frustrate the whole ecosystem of tendering.
And all of those 200 people will want to know who got the tender and
Yeah,
how.
who got the tenders and how? But now, because we are not doing it, only few people are doing it.
Yeah.
Then it's open for fraud.
I want to emphasize that part you said, that most of our big businesses are in tenders. And we need to dispel this myth that tenders are for these
Tenderpreneurs.
these fat tenderpreneurs who like young girls and pop bottles.
Yeah.
The most respected business people in this country, a lot of them, in one way or another, are involved in tenders. And tenders, for people that maybe wouldn't understand, is doing business with the state and to the benefit of the country.
Definitely.
I think for me, this is why I'd say everyone should get into tenders. We all vote. Many of us want to get into politics in some way, but then we're not all being told, come work with the state, whether as an employee, teacher, nurse, police officer, administrator, or you can do business with the state. Not just for your own money, but you're working for the country. You're supplying bread.
The tax money. That's what it's doing.
That's tax money. And
yeah.
it's the biggest, I think, budget in the country.
Yeah.
So why would you not want to exploit that? Number one, I'm serving my country. Oh, but you're not a politician. Yes, I'm a tenderpreneur. I pay tax because I'm serving the country. But I also make sure that this tax, I am the one supplying the bread to the hospitals. I'm the one supplying food to the prisons.
You're doing the roads.
I'm the one building the roads.
Yeah.
And if it's not good, you guys can shout at me and we can fix it.
Yeah.
And if more of us can get involved to what you're saying, maybe the corruption and the fraud would go down. Because if 5 people go for a tender, one gets them, it's 4 people fighting. 200 people go for a tender, one person wins. The other 199 are going to ask, how did this person get a tender? And then we're going to start fighting this whole corruption issue that we have.
Yeah.
What was your experience like? Are you still in the tender space? Why
but
did
I
you
want
leave?
to go back. It's time consuming. It's a numbers game. yeah, you need to have a whole lot of capacity.
Okay.
Capacity in terms of you must be very intentional to say how many tenders you want to submit per month.
Okay.
And if you're not doing that, like once in a while, it's like you're playing because it's a numbers game. Yeah, the more you put in, the more you get out. Tender document as well, it's very expensive to do the printing and the driving, submitting of those tenders and stuff.
That must be changed, right? That must be changed.
Yeah, some tenders you can submit online.
Because I can imagine, I've seen the paperwork. Sometimes people submit.
Yeah, like a big
that
file.
already kicks out a lot of people.
Yeah.
Worse, if you've done the initial, let's say you've done some paperwork and you get some tender or they've gotten some of your info. It doesn't make sense for me to constantly have to do the same. And once you've done some work, and this is me now not speaking to you, it's me speaking to the politicians that are going to watch this, to say if they're serious, which I know they're not, but if they were serious about getting people in the tender space or even getting existing tenderpreneurs to scale, it cannot be that you're constantly supplying the same things. You can update online certain things that have changed, but why I keep having to print and submit and fill in is almost literally forcing people to be despondent, to get tired, to be like, I wanted to do this thing, but it's too cumbersome. And once I've done some work, review me and mark me on how well I did, so that you can be like, you've done 3 amazing tenders. We'd like to promote you to more because we've already seen your track record. You shouldn't be applying as if you knew. You're applying like every other person, but you've done, I don't understand. I've been running a business. I've been supplying something to you. Now that I'm like about a new product, now I have to pitch it as if you've never met me. There's something very wrong with the tender system in this country outside of corruption. And I know it's done intentionally so. And I just wanted to hear your experience in the space in terms of paperwork. You're a pretty woman. So if ever maybe some men in the space approached you, other people maybe wanted you to front because you're a woman for BEE points. I'm not supposed to put you on the spot. And if you don't want to answer, it's okay. But it's for me to raise that these are the things that happen in that space. And it doesn't serve the country. Because you've got a young woman who wants to serve, who wants to work, who has the desire and the capacity and the tenacity. But because she looks a certain way, because she's a certain age, because the paperwork is so thick, because the English is so complicated, because the numbers are so complex, because the compliance, the tax clearance, and this, you guys actually don't want us to work in this country. You want to keep us there at the bottom and be like, no, just go apply for a grant. You don't deserve to be here in the tender space. It's only for certain people.
Actually, tenders are extremely complicated. Because as a startup, the same requirement that they will require for a person who has been in the industry for the past 10 years, they also require them from you. So it's as if like everyone who do tenders must had already worked somewhere, but I don't know where because you're a startup.
Yeah.
They will require things like financial statements and all of those requirements, they open up a hole for fraud. Because where do you expect a new business to get the financial statement, number one? And number two, the reason being I decided to stop tendering, I was put off by a certain experience where before my accounting business, I was into renewable energy. So that was the first business that I registered.
Not biodiesel?
Okay. Renewable energy. So the reason being for that particular business is because Eskom was saying they're looking for youth, women.
Of course.
They put aside a certain budget for us, right? And I dedicated my time, I think 3 years, whole 3 years, attending to the workshop and things related to renewable energy. Until this other time, some man calls me and say, hey, let's have a meeting. Okay, I agreed to the meeting. I can't remember what he said the meeting was about. But when we initially met, he had my company documents and had a contract from Eskom indicating that I got a contract to supply this and that. Therefore, in order for me to get that contract, I must sign off certain shares from my business. I'm like, okay, sell it to who? It's like, no, some guys, but you talk to me, you talk to them through me. So you're not gonna be able to meet them. Like, I cannot be able to work with spookers. And
That's how you get in trouble, by the way. That's how you get in trouble. Next thing, you're being arrested for human beings you've never even met.
Then that man insisted to say, no, we're gonna get you like a Range Rover, Porsche. What do you like? I'm like, I don't like those things, but I wanna meet these people that you say. And how did you even get, guys? Like, how did we get a contract? Because I have not applied for this particular work.
Jeez.
They're like, no, don't worry about that. But if you just sign off these things, the deal will be okay. What. I refused that, but it was scary because how did they get my information?
Yeah.
All my CK, my ID, all of those things. Yeah. And the
You
guy.
don't know if this guy worked at ESCOM or was linked to.
No, the guy didn't work at ESCOM.
Okay.
His business card was working somewhere. But that time, it was the time of the Guptas. It was the time of BE.
So, please speak into the mic, sorry.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It was the time of BE things. Yeah, it was scary times. So, yeah.
You didn't need the money. You were making money elsewhere. Sorry, that's a question. There's a reason I'm asking it.
What do you mean?
The money that was being put on the table, the deal that was being made, the Range Rovers and the Porsches, you didn't need that. You
No,
were
I
working,
didn't need it.
you were getting by. I'm
It was not
imagining-
even the matter of working and getting by. Even if I was not working and getting by,
Your morals and
it
your
will not
integrity.
be something that I'll get myself into.
I'm imagining a young, pretty girl from Skokune who went to, you said Tembisa High?
No? TKM. There's
TKM.
TKM.
TKM in
Yeah.
Tembisa.
Yeah.
I'm imagining her being given this opportunity. And number one, I'm thinking of all the other women who are currently fronting as we sit here. Not by choice, but because they want to make money, this was put on the table. But I'm thinking of a poor girl who's desperate. She's not even thinking about the Range Rover and the Porsche. She's just thinking like, at home, we don't have food. At home, we don't have anything. This is my chance. Maybe they're religious. They're like, God works in mysterious ways. This is maybe the opportunity. It may not look good, but if I get the money, I can pay my siblings' school fees. I can build my mom a house. And some people that exploit poverty in this country to get people to front. I don't know, outside of morals and integrity, there are many other women like you who get these offers all the time. Some take them. But for the ones who maybe are in there, for the ones who are still going to get these opportunities, if you had to speak to them, what would you want to say to them? You don't have to tell them, don't do it. But just be like, look, however you feel, what would you want them to think every time they sit with someone who's giving them this offer?
I think what I love the most is freedom. That's why I got into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of wearing the way I'm wearing right now and doing the hair that I want to do. Therefore, if a person comes in and tell me to do something that I don't want to do, just tells me that my freedom is gone, because I will not have a voice or whatsoever in whatever engagement that I will be entering myself into. Therefore, I would say to them that you must value your freedom more than anything, because freedom brings bliss and freedom makes you have a beautiful life.
Jeez, thank you. I just want to add to that because you're mentioning freedom. For a lot of these girls who are ignorant, they will find themselves in prison. Never mind freedom of speech and those things. And I understand corruption. I understand bribes. I understand exactly where it comes from for many people. But if ever you find yourself on the wrong side of a deal, none of those spooku guys are going to be arrested. That guy that met you is going to say he's never met you. It's going to be your signature, your CK, your ID, your face. And you're going to sink. And you may find that even worse if you threaten to blow the whistle. You might lose your life. So people need to think very hard about these decisions and who they're working with, especially when you don't know them. I don't know this person. How did you get my information? I don't even know if things go sideways, where you live, who your family is, if you have kids. I've got a family. And now I'm losing my life. Never mind just my freedom of speech, but my existence. Thank you. I don't know if you have any tips that you could give business owners, at least from a tax perspective, while we're here. This is me asking for like a free consult, Nyana.
Okay. What I would say is that tax landscape is changing very quickly, and in my language, mulato abole. Meaning, if you have not been doing things right in the previous years, start doing things right now.
Yeah.
In a correct manner, because SARS can still go back 5 years ago and retrieve the information and tell you owe them 2 million. So if you want
Did
to
you
be...
say 5 years?
Yeah.
Anything beyond that?
They can
We
still
go-
go. They can still go.
Sure.
So it's very important that we are doing things right and accurately, and we keep our record so that SARS does not come after us. Because with the AI, they can detect discrepancies very easily, especially if you're a vet vendor.
Mm-hmm.
So if you declare you made 2 million, whereas you made 5 million,
They can see that.
they can see that. And if you do that, there are fines of 200% that they fine you
Of
for
what you
it.
owe.
Yeah,
So I owe 10,000 Rand. They'll
Then
fine me 20,000, something like that.
200%.
You?
That's the fine.
Okay. Any other tips for SMEs that you mostly service in terms of, okay, number one, make sure you're compliant, make sure you're on the ball. SARS is using AI, but is there anything else I can do to get my things right, to pay less tax, maybe?
What I would say is that let us stop doing DIY things, not with tax. Because a lot of people get anxious, especially during the tax season, and maybe a client is looking for tax clearance and they just want to do some quick. Yes, the system is so easy. You can do your thing. You can do whatever you want to do and get your tax PIN, but whatever that you're doing is always going to catch up with you. So before you do anything, make sure that you consult with a relevant person that understands tax.
Do you guys do personal income tax, or do you have someone in your company that does personal income tax? Or do you have partners elsewhere that you may say, look, this is what we do at Sadi, but my DMs are open. I have got people that do personal income tax that I can vouch for.
Yeah,
Hopefully they'll pay you commission.
We have
Do
people.
you? So we can hit you up for that as well.
Yeah.
You won't do it, but you'll refer.
Yeah.
Okay. And you trust them.
Yeah,
They'll
I
get us
trust
some
them.
refund if we deserve them.
If you deserve.
Do you know why rich people pay so little tax? At least from a business perspective, not individually.
They pay so little tax because now they're jumping on the other element of tax tabs that a normal business person does not get to.
Okay.
And the second one is that they have tax advisors that they pay them a whole lot of money.
Okay. So they don't DIY.
They don't DIY. They get professionals. And they don't only get professionals. They make sure that the professionals engage with them and they listen and they implement. Because we can talk all we want with majority of entrepreneurs, but if they don't implement, you're not going to be able to see the result that you are paying for on a monthly basis for your tax advice. So I'll give an example of the things that the rich people do. They buy stock, right? When you buy stock, you only get taxed a dividend tax, which is 20%, which is less.
Okay.
And you're only going to be taxed that dividend tax when you receive the dividend.
Dividend tax of 20%.
Yeah.
Versus abo 45%.
Yeah.
Just for perspective, so you're saying if I earn a dividend of R1 million in a year, I pay 20% tax.
Yeah.
Versus if I made an income of $1 million, I'll pay 45%.
Yeah.
Okay. So they buy stocks so they can pay a lower tax is number one. Okay.
And most of the time, because they have a lot of money already, the dividend tax does not hit their bank account. So it stays there.
They don't cash out.
But they don't cash out.
It only gets taxed when you cash out.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you advise on things like trusts?
Yeah. We have people in-house that do advice on trust.
Can a company have a trust, or a trust for individuals?
A company can have a trust.
So I can have a company registered and my company has a trust.
Yeah. You can have a trust, and under your trust, you have companies
Okay.
and individuals.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to add anything more to this AI thing. You scared me a bit, and I don't know if we should scare people even more. So we had COVID lockdown, and because of that, many things couldn't happen. We couldn't see people face to face or wearing masks. And you're telling us that SARS started implementing some of these technological advancements, which although made life easy for a lot of people, now it also means they have more access to things that we were trying to hide. The impact of artificial intelligence in terms of accounting and in terms of tax, from a positive and a negative perspective, and mostly surrounding SARS itself.
SARS is more efficient when it comes to their collection.
Of course, they number one with collections, number last with payments.
Extremely efficient, and because of that, also with the AI, they introduced auto assessment.
Auto assessment.
Yeah.
I remember for the last couple of years, if you earn a certain amount or something, it can auto, unless if there's any deviations.
When you have one salary, you get auto assessed.
Hey, that's an AI tool that they use.
That's an AI tool.
One income stream or one salary.
And who knows, one day the side hustle guys, they'll be part of the group that are auto assessed as well, because they will have access to the bank account and indicate the amount of money that you got from the side hustle.
Okay.
You said the disadvantage and advantages.
Any advantages and disadvantages of AI in the tech space and maybe even in accounting?
Okay. AI is advantageous for SARS, the department itself.
Oh, not for us as people.
And as people, it forces everyone to sit in their belt, to be correct in the way they're doing business, because things are integrated and things are seen without you compulsory volunteering the information.
Jeez.
Because in the olden days, you would volunteer on how much you made in your business. Now SARS knows. And SARS also has information, especially if you work with government, the CSD.
Central something database.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they have
suppliers, sorry.
Yeah. So on the database, it also indicates the amount of invoices that you have invoiced, the VAT amount. So if you're not declaring the correct amount, SARS is no longer coming to you to ask how you didn't do things right, do it like this and that. They already know to say you were supposed to reconcile your stuff and say 4 million sales, but instead you said 2 million. Why?
Do you know what access SARS has? So you're saying they have access to our bank accounts? You're saying they have access to government?
All third-party information related to finance.
And this is something that has been legalized, that SARS has access. It's just, I don't know if for now they're allowed to take money without our permission.
They do.
They're allowed to take money without our permission
do.
if they feel that we haven't done anything right. And then it's up to us to prove if they made a mistake.
I'm not sure in terms of companies if they do take money, but in terms of personal tax, if you owe them, they take money from.
They don't need to ask.
They don't ask.
I've got a criminal mind. I think it's the first time I'm ever saying this on a platform. I've got a criminal mind. It's probably because I've spent time with some people that are a bit shady in my life. I'm listening to everything you're saying, and what criminals do is when they listen to someone explain compliance and they just look for the loopholes. So we spoke about VAT, and they're like, oh, okay, so if I take cash, it seems like one of the issues is money hitting bank accounts for a criminal mind. So, okay, I want as little money as possible to be in the bank account. The other thing is with the advent of cryptocurrencies, other people are also thinking, oh, okay, so I can have shares, pay a low dividend tax, but only if I cash out. Money mustn't hit my bank. If it's not hitting my bank, where do I go? Maybe I should buy cryptos. Are there still loopholes in this space? I know you for compliance and those things, but how do we get people to, I don't know, man, do the right thing? Because a criminal mind, I think this is what I'm just trying to say, a criminal mind is going to try and look for all types of cheats in this thing versus doing the right thing.
Yeah, actually, when you cheat the system, you're also cheating yourself right now. Because as you want to expand, let's say you want to buy a house from the bank,
Yeah.
the bank will say, bring us an IT3.
What's the
ITRs,
IT3?
like a form that indicates on how much you declared as your income
Okay.
on SARS. So if you have cheated yourself to say you have not received any income or you're hiding some money, therefore the information will be not the same.
The bank will be like, but you can't afford. And you're like, no, I can. I drive
Yeah,
a
I
Porsche.
can.
You're
Like,
Kanjani?
you know?
Yeah.
But if you don't want to work in those, if you don't want anything from anyone,
Yeah.
maybe you can cheat the system as much as you want. But if you want to be sustainable and work with other institutions,
Yeah.
compliance is a must.
Do you have any ideas? I'm sorry for bringing this question. Do you have any ideas around cryptocurrencies? Because people are using them now to shift money around the world without. So I'll have crypto, I'll buy Bitcoin in whatever currency I buy it in. Then I move around the world and I just either withdraw or whatever the case may be. If I have Bitcoin and I'm withdrawing South African rands, when I convert, do I pay tax? Do you know? A lot of
As-
companies are starting to look into taking Bitcoin as legal
Assets.
tender and the tax implications of those things.
There's a tax element on cryptocurrency. I just don't know how to explain it.
Okay.
But at the same time, as soon as money hit your account, just know that SARS is looking and there's also
We're back
crypto.
at bank accounts.
What?
Must I say this thing?
Do banks have bank accounts?
Let me not mention anyone's names. Oh, should I? No, I won't mention anyone's names. I've met people, I hope people don't connect the dots. I've met people that don't have bank accounts,
Yeah.
but they own cryptocurrency and they live very comfortable lives. And it has me asking a lot of questions. And one of the things now that it would make me ask is this thing you're saying, that as long as hard cash never hits a bank account, it's almost like I'm a ghost.
You're a
I
ghost
don't
if you're
exist.
not on the system. You don't exist. You're not.
But I'm speaking specifically bank accounts. I've got an ID, I've got a passport, I've got cryptocurrency somewhere, and maybe I have assets I bought cash or someone bought them cash. But
Yeah.
as long as I don't have a bank account, SARS cannot see.
You don't have income tax number. I think that's the most interesting thing right now, especially with the young upcoming people that go into crypto, that goes into content creation.
Yes.
That when do they do like an income tax number? When do they register? Because we, the 80s and the we
Don't
got
expose us.
we
the 2000s.
we the 2000s
Thank
when
you.
when we went and worked, that was the time we were required to register for income tax.
Yes.
But now who requires the social media manager to register for income tax number? For the cryptocurrency guy to register for income tax number?
I'm thinking my son is 14. He's going to be 16 in 2 years. If ever at some point I gave him 10 Bitcoin when it was still starting out, how much that Bitcoin would be worth today, which would mean how much would he be worth today, but he's never cashed it out. He doesn't have an income number. He maybe doesn't have a bank account. And it's like, oh, I own 10 Bitcoin. You're like, what do you mean? No, like, you know, one Bitcoin is worth $20,000 or whatever. I own 10 of them because of my dad. And you're saying, or we're saying that this guy could travel around the world having never opened a bank account, getting an income tax number, but I know the guys at SARS are pantsulas themselves, and they're always looking for ways around these things, which sucks for us, but I guess it's good for the development of the country.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to tell us about your company before we shut down. maybe any clients without mentioning their names that you thought were very interesting? Any of the work that you've done that you think is quite interesting? Or any maybe problems that you're like, look, I can solve these problems.
Oh,
Number one
problem that I like solving.
Yeah.
There are a whole lot of people that owe tax, millions of money. Therefore, we can do like a tax compromise on those millions and
Really?
save them a whole chunk of money.
Individual and company.
Yeah.
Your company has an ability to have inkandla tea with the SARS people and see if you can find a compromise. I think that's already a thing.
Yeah.
What else did I want to ask? The SMMEs that must approach you, you don't have like a threshold of how much they must be making.
No.
You're willing to meet anyone and then you'll assess if you can assist them or not.
Yeah.
People that owe SARS money, let's not say millions, anyone that owes SARS money and is struggling to pay, or they can come to you and you can be like, look, we can try help.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's brilliant. Thank you.
Thank
Is there
you so
anything
much.
else you want to say? Shout out to the kids. We love the kids. Teen entrepreneurship. Shout out to Skukune.
Yeah,
Tembisa.
shout out to Skukune people. Shout out to Tembisans.
Hey.
Shout out to Miss Tembisas. And shout out to everybody.
Yeah.
All my clients.
You are Miss Tembisa.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Well done.
Thank you.
Sure. You don't model anymore? You don't?
Ooh, time.
Okay.
Time issue.
Any other shout outs?
Shout out to my husband, my
Hey.
kids, and everyone, my friends, my clients. And I would like to say this as well, to say COVID changed the landscape of business. That when you're working online or when you're doing your social media marketing, people as far as Cape Town and Durban want to do business with you. And I think it's so brave of my client to trust me with their finances, to say, hey, help me with this, because wow, a whole lot of chunk of people as well on the other element, they look at you, you could be a scam.
Of course.
You
Of
know?
course.
Do you look like, do you really know what you're doing?
Yes.
But on the other side, there are others that are truly understand and value the work that you do, and I appreciate them so much.
So we speak about pretty privilege. Do you ever have the disadvantages of people look at you, they're like, you're pretty, I doubt you can help me.
Yeah,
Maybe
there's
if
a
you are
lot of
uglier,
disadvantage.
you probably know what you're talking about. Do you ever have to deal with that? Having to prove yourself?
A lot.
Yeah.
Because they look at you, no,
Can't be.
can't be.
I wanted to ask if your husband is an entrepreneur, because I find entrepreneurs understand entrepreneurs, number one. But also sometimes it also helps to be married to someone who's not, so that they can come with balance, especially when times are rough in entrepreneurship. Is he in entrepreneurship? Do you guys work together?
He's in entrepreneurship and also working. So it's on both sides.
Okay, but he's been understanding and supportive of your journey.
Truly so.
Geez, well done to you. I think the female entrepreneurs I've sat with, almost all of them, besides the ones that are single, that are in committed relationships or married, speak about how much work their husbands have put in and the sacrifices. Because we know the saying, behind every successful man is a woman, but you find a lot of times behind every successful woman, especially entrepreneur, there's sometimes some poor guy there who's suffering, but who's helping out. And I appreciate the fact that you guys are making it work. And I wish you guys nothing but the best of success, just as a couple, in your business. And again, I just want to thank you, man, for sponsoring this episode. It means everything to me.
Thank you.
You want to help me get money from SARS and not pay, you said? Something like that? Maybe.
No.
I don't know if website, social media, or must people just search your name, Happy Mohlala Boshomane?
On LinkedIn, it's Happy Mohlala Boshomane. On TikTok, it's happy_accountant.
Okay.
And Twitter, happy_accountant. And website is www.sadiholdings.co.za.
Sadi Holdings, SADI, very easy.
Yeah.
Okay. Sadi, Mosadi. Thank you very much for joining me. And I look forward to hearing from you after this, how many people in your DMs. And besides the corporate work that you're doing, I hope other people will contact you to see how they can get involved in the teen entrepreneurship and some of the other more community work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you so much.